Do you see who's coming in? Amazing. Hello, everybody. It's 12 o'clock, and we are going to get started on our webinar. Thank you all for joining us. Today, we have a fabulous webinar around the art of body contouring. Today, we're going to highlight some treatments and tips and tricks around body contouring, highlighting the radio frequency device. I am your host, Caitlin Anderson. I'm here as our SharpLight's clinical specialist. I'm also an RPN. I have 15 years in the medical aesthetic industry. And I also have with me today is Chantel. Chantel is a clinical trainer here at SharpLight, and she has lots of experience, so 8 years experience in the medical aesthetic industry, and she'll be sharing some of the ins and outs of radio frequency, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Chantel, let's get started.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. I'm very excited for today. We're going to be going over a lot today in terms of radio frequency, body contouring. It's going to be very insightful for everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our agenda. So our agenda is going to cover what is body contouring, how it works, how it's evolved and changed, what is radio frequency, so the different types of radio frequency technologies, how they work, our SharpLight's radio frequency, how our technology stands out from other radio frequencies in the industry, before and after pictures. Before and after pictures are so important in terms of radio frequency because that will really determine how your results look, how you can market it, how you can kind of include it in your clinic. So we're going to definitely go in depth with our before and afters. We're also going to talk about stack treatments. So we actually have a really exciting video going over some stack treatment modalities that we offer for like a mommy makeover. And we also have our industry trajectory for radiofrequency as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with what what body contouring is. So body contouring refers to a range of surgical and non-surgical procedures designed to reshape and improve the appearance of the body. So that would be like a really high level understanding of what body contouring is. Body contouring can range from, something like liposuction to something non-surgical like radiofrequency. So we have a lot of different options that body contouring kind of covers. We also have radiofrequency. So radiofrequency treatments utilize heat from friction that promotes collagen production, skin tightening, fat reduction, resulting in a more sculpted and toned appearance. Now, this is, again, very high level, but I'm going to go ahead and let Caitlin take the reins and talk a little bit more in depth about what radiofrequency is.
Okay, guys, so essentially, radio frequency is an electrical current. It flows through the body, the surfaces, through the skin layers. And what it does is it actually penetrates through that skin layers, and every layer it hits, it's actually going to cause a little bit of resistance. And with that resistance causes friction. Friction is what actually heats up the skin tissue, and we get kind of that deeper and deeper penetration of the heat in the skin. Now, with the energy going into the skin, it heats up the tissue. And what keeps the heat there is the water molecules in our tissues. Our skin and body is full of water molecules as well as, your electrolytes and things like that. And so as we're penetrating through the skin and we're causing that friction, we're generating the heat. The heat is heating up more because of the water molecules, which is why it's so important to actually drink your water before and after these treatments so that the heat stays in the skin and causes that residual heat, which builds the tissue warmth. Now, as we're heating that tissue warmth, what we're also doing is we are causing a heat disruption in the cell. So we know that our body is constantly in a state of homeostasis, right? Causing balance in our bodies. So when we're cold, we shiver. When we're hot, we sweat. Our hormones are regulated. Everything is regulated to keep balance in the body. And this regulates all the way down to a cell. And the cell has to work at a certain temperature. And so as we're introducing heat into that cell, it's causing a disruption in the way that the cell operates, making the cell tissue or the cell membrane actually permeable. And so by doing that, we're actually helping to remove and shrink the cell by removing the fatty liquids into the lymphatic system. And then we're causing that drainage, and then obviously we excrete it out. So that's essentially the high level stuff of how it works on a cellular level. But I'll have Chantal to kind of talk about the fat and the different fat levels in our skin. So take it away, Chantal.
Thank you so much. That was like super insightful. That's a great, talking point in terms of your clients so that they can really understand what's happening to their fat when we're treating with radiofrequency. So as Caitlin mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about fat because there's certain fat that we can treat with any body contouring treatment, and there's some fat that we can't treat. So I want you guys to be able to distinguish the two types of fat so that you can effectively be able to, determine who would be a good candidate and who wouldn't. So we have two different types of fat in the skin, or sorry, two different types of fat in the body. We have subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. So visceral fat is located within the abdominal cavity. So it surrounds our organs like our liver, our pancreas. So this type of fat is so deep within the body that we're not actually able to treat it with any sort of body contouring method, whether that's liposuction or radiofrequency. It's just too hard for us to distinguish that area. So visceral fat is easy to distinguish in terms of our consultation because it's actually hard to the touch. So when you feel the skin and you feel the area that you're treating, if it's hard to the touch and very tight, that would be considered visceral fat, and that is not treatable. So usually you would see visceral fat in clients that have an unhealthy eating habit, potentially has a lot of alcohol consumption, or sometimes it could be medications that they're on as well that can inhibit a lot of visceral fat in the area. So we want to make sure that when we're doing our consultations, we're distinguishing who would be a candidate and who wouldn't based on the type of fat that they have. So subcutaneous, on the other hand, is found directly within our skin layer. It's in our subcutaneous fat layer. This is completely treatable. It's pinchable, it's soft to the touch, it's very malleable, and this would be very easy and effective to treat because it's still within that layer of skin that we're able to target with our radiofrequency handpieces. So essentially, the way that I like to say it is anything that you can pinch, you can treat, because you're able to distinguish based off of that nice pinch that you could get in the skin. So I want to talk a little bit about the different types of radiofrequency technologies. So the first one, and I would say like the oldest technology that we have for radiofrequency, is considered monopolar. So monopolar technology uses a single electrode to deliver energy into the skin. So essentially how it works is you have a single electrode on like a handpiece, a device that you would use on the skin. You would also have a grounding pad that would be placed somewhere else on the body so that you can close that circuit. So you're basically manually closing the circuit with your two different tools. The reason why monopolar isn't used as often anymore is because it's hard to get specific heating when you have a grounding pad on a different part of the body. So you don't get that like specified heat that's distinguished in the area that you're looking to treat. So now we've come out with different types of technologies. Bipolar would be a very popular one, especially for the face, because it uses two electrodes. So you would use two electrodes all in one handpiece, and that would deliver energy from each side of the handpiece to create heat and friction. So for the face, bipolar is a really successful handpiece to use because it penetrates around 8 millimeters into the skin. So you're able to get nice selective heating, nice like strong selective heating in that area without it being too much to the point where you can cause fat loss, which you wouldn't want in the face. We also have multipolar technology. So multipolar technology uses multiple electrodes to deliver RF energy. As you can see in the picture that we have here, that would be considered multipolar because there's multiple probes that are delivering energy oscillating from one side to the other. So for body, this is a really nice option because you're able to penetrate around 21 millimeters into the skin and get more selective heating for fat, subcutaneous tissue. So this is a really nice option for any type of body treatment. And for reference, SharpLight uses bipolar technology for face, so for our face handpiece, and then multipolar technology for our body handpiece. So let's talk about RF indications. So we have a couple indications that we already spoke about, like stubborn fat, right? As women and men, there's definitely some areas that can be really hard to target, even with diet and exercise. So we're able to effectively treat those areas with RF while still helping with skin tightening and other indications. So stubborn fat would be another big one, cellulite. We have wrinkle reduction that we can treat, and we could also regenerate elasticity and collagen. So it's an all-in-one amazing handpiece because you're able to offer all of these services as well as it being very comfortable for your client. So let's talk about treatment areas. So we have a lot of different treatment areas that we can work with, and essentially areas that have, pinchable fat are areas that work well. So you have the abdomen. This is a very common one because as women, as I mentioned, abdomen is definitely one of those areas, even with diet and exercise, that's really hard to get rid of that stubborn pocket. So abdomen is a very prominent and popular treatment that we offer. Love handles would be another nice popular one. Love handles would also be known as our flanks. So we can treat around the hip area to kind of help define the waistline. And that would give a nice contour for your clients as well. We have our bum lift, and that's actually what our lovely VP Serafina is doing in the picture that you see. She's actually performing a bum lift treatment that not only helps lift the bum, but it also combats the banana roll area, which would be like definitely a prominent area for cellulite around the backs of the thighs. So you can effectively treat that area and the bum to help lift and tighten and reduce cellulite. We also have arms that we can treat. So if clients have laxity and also fat pockets in the arms that they're looking to kind of address, that's also a great area that we can treat. We have inner and outer thighs, which is also a very popular one. So I want to talk about stack treatment modalities. Now, a huge incentive here at SharpLight is we actually have set protocols for stack treatments. So you don't have to limit yourself to only using one handpiece per treatment. You're able to maximize your results by using multiple technologies and multiple handpieces all in one session. And we're actually able to outline that for you in like a separate training that we can offer after your initial training. So usually what we'll have you do is you do your initial training, we teach you, and then 3 months down the road, when you get comfortable with your hand pieces, we're able to actually offer an additional stacked protocol treatment or training, so that you could kind of go over how to use your hand pieces together, how you can maximize your results for your clients, and also how you can kind of give them different options and maximize your treatment menu. So this is going to be the first one I want to talk about. This is a really exciting one because we actually have a video after this that I want to show you where I actually performed these treatments together for a mom who had a little bit of laxity in the stomach area. So this is what we call our contour mark. We use both our body contouring handpiece and our fractional handpiece to help maximize results in terms of laxity in the stomach, stubborn fat, and also stretch marks. So essentially what it does is our body contouring is going to help with tightening the skin. It's going to bring blood flow to the skin. That's going to help aid our fractional handpiece in resurfacing. Then our fractional handpiece is going to go ahead and help with resurfacing any sort of textural irregularities that you would have from stretch marks. So maximizing the two together is going to give you quick results. It's going to give your client, more confidence. And it's also going to inhibit multiple indications all in one treatment. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this video. So I'm starting out by just marking the skin. So I'm just going to mark the treatment area. We're going to go in with our radio frequency first. So I'm essentially marking based off of where I see that stubborn pocket of fat. After that, I'm going to prep the skin, put a little bit of glycerin gel so that I could go ahead and use that for glide. Now I'm going to grab my handpiece, set my step parameters, which is really easy on the screen, and I'm going to go ahead and start working. So you want nice firm pressure in the skin. You want to make sure that you have all of your probes in contact with the skin at all times, and you're going to be moving in nice long movements, nice and slow, to build your heat. So you want your skin to get at around 42 to 43 degrees Celsius. And I always like to go clockwise on the stomach so that you can help kind of aid in digestion at the same time. So you're enhancing lymphatic drainage, you're helping with you're also helping with their digestion, and you're helping with blood flow to the area. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark the skin again, remove all the glycerin, and we're going to get prepped for our fractional treatment. So I'm going to go ahead and set the screen. I'm going to get everything ready for the treatment, and then I'm going to start pulsing on my client. So you want to make sure that you get everything all set up, ready to go. You want to hover over the skin when you're doing fractional treatment, and you can do up to 4 passes on the treatment area based on the client's tolerance for the treatment, and also based on the client's reaction in the skin. So up to 4 passes, you're going to be hovering, treating that entire area. And then after that is when you finish up your treatment. After you're done with your fractional, you don't have to worry about putting anything on the skin. You're going to keep it nice and dry, and your client will see great results within the next couple weeks. So after I finished up with my video, I want to show you guys some of our other stack treatment modalities. So I touched a little bit on stretch marks, but another thing that we could also treat that would be the same hand pieces would be surgical scars. So you can treat surgical scars as well with your fractional and your radio frequency. Now this one is also another one that I want to touch on. This would be our clarity treatment. So our clarity treatment uses body contouring and hair removal. We actually found in studies that this helps with ingrown hairs. So this is actually a new stack treatment that we've incorporated so that we can kind of build heat in those hair follicles that are really stubborn and impacted, and that will help loosen up those follicles. After that, we're going to go in with our hair removal and effectively treat the hair. And this works really well in stubborn, impacted hairs like underarms, in the Brazilian area where you have more of a tendency to have those ingrowns. So it works really well. Now, I want to touch on how our technology stands out in comparison to other conventional radio frequencies. So what makes our technology stand out, first of all, is our stacked modalities, of course, for us being able to kind of train you on not only one handpiece on its own, but we're able to give you protocols for everything together. We also don't have any arcing with our radio frequency handpieces. So let me just touch on what arcing is. Arcing essentially is when you have a little bit of a spark that can be emitted from the radio frequency handpiece if you don't have a closed circuit in the skin. So say if you're like lifting off the skin, or if you lift your handpiece off the skin completely. With monopolar technology, sometimes you have susceptibility of getting like a little bit of a shock on the skin. That can be uncomfortable. With our technology, there's safety mechanisms that avoid having any arcing. So it's a very comfortable treatment for your clients. It feels like a hot stone massage, and they shouldn't feel any sparking. You could also see an instant result after one session. A method that we use at Sharplight is we actually have them stand up after we do one side of the treatment area. So say if you're doing arms, I would have them stand up after I do one arm, just so that they can see the difference in both sides and feel the difference as well in the tightness of the skin. So this is another nice method that we use to kind of have our clients see the results throughout. Now, we also have a user-friendly screen and safety features. We have impedance that is a really good indication if you have too much heat or too little heat in the skin. So the machine will actually indicate if there is any impedance irregularities in the treatment that you're doing. So that's another really nice feature that we have. Of course, we can treat cellulite, stubborn fat, and laxity, just like I mentioned earlier. We can treat all skin types. I think this is very important to know because inclusivity is very important. We want to make sure that we're treating all clients and all skin types. So with radio frequency, you're able to treat anyone. It's also an evergreen treatment, so you can treat throughout the winter and the summer. In the summer, of course, as long as someone's not like burnt and peeling, it is completely safe to treat throughout the year. So that's another great incentive to kind of bring radio frequency into your practices. So Caitlin, I'm going to go ahead and let you touch on our treatment plans for body contouring.
Sure. So now that we have all these lovely treatments lined up and ready to go, you might be wondering how often you should be treating. And, so with body contouring, essentially, even facial contouring, you're working at probably about 1 to 2 weeks apart. So like you'll do once a week or once every other week, essentially. I personally, in my experience, really like doing it once a week. It gets my clients in a regime where they're constantly thinking about their health and their diet and exercise, as well as having these treatments. And these treatments are really, really nice. They're very comfortable. They feel like a hot stone massage. I love them. And so clients are usually really excited. It's almost like a reward at the end of their week to come in and have their body contouring session with me. So I really love doing that. Now, as far as the total amount of treatments, we usually suggest about 8 to 16. I mean, this really just depends on where they're at in their lifestyle changes. What happens in the spa can only, or in the clinic or wherever you're working, can only be as effective as what's going on at home too. So like what Chantal was saying, this is a combination treatment with healthy diet and exercise as well as these treatments. So they may have results faster or slower depending on how they're adhering to the treatment protocol. As far as the treatment process is concerned, you really want to set expectations with your clients ahead of time, making sure that you have identified what area of concern that they have. And they could be like, I want my arms, I want my stomach, I want my butt, I want everything. Just shove me in an RF tube and get all these treatments done. So you really want to effectively decide which area they want to start with and where you're going to go from there. You also want to assess candidacy as well. Not everybody is a candidate for radio frequency in the aspect of their comorbidities, if there's anything that they have to worry about as far as contraindications are concerned. Again, this is not liposuction. This is something that we have to do in conjunction with lifestyle changes and things like that for the best results. So you want to set those expectations with your clients during consultation as well. When you're doing the treatment, Chantel did a great job of explaining, you're marking the territory, making sure that you're doing these markings while people are standing. I know that sounds really silly. They get on the bed and you're like, oh, right, I have to get them up and start marking them. And this is because when we lie down, our body fat moves, our cellulite disappears because there's not as much pressure on the area as we're standing. So we want to make sure that we're marking when the individual is standing and take your photos when they're standing. This is going to give you the clearest vision of how you're going to treat this area and making sure that it's really effective. As far as doing the treatment, we highly recommend that you use glycerin. Glycerin is one of those treatment protocols that is required. You can't use anything other than glycerin. I know that's a question we get a lot. And this is just because the high melting point of glycerin helps to create a barrier between the energy from the handpiece and the skin underneath it. And so we protect the epidermis so that the heat goes where it needs to go. The other part of it is making sure that we're doing nice, long, firm movements on the body. If you have training in lymphatic drainage, keeping lymph in mind is a really good idea too. Not everybody is trained in that, but if there's areas where we can improve in our clinical expertise, that's a good thing to highlight and learn. But as far as the movements are concerned, long, flowing movements, try not to lift it as much because that's going to interrupt the heat. As Chantal was saying, we have issues with impedance and things like that. And the machine knows when you're not doing the treatments properly. So it'll tell you. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all of those properly. And essentially, that is how you perform the contouring. Now, as far as taking photos and all those things like that, that's really important. And I know Chantel's going to cover that, so I'm not going to talk about that yet. But back to you, Chantel. Thanks.
Thank you, Caitlin, for that in-depth explanation. I find, body contouring is an art, and I'm very glad that you covered, how to treat your movements. Lymphatic drainage is so important in terms of results. So you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of how your movements should be placed on the skin. So I completely agree. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about before and afters. Before and afters are so important. Any treatment in general, it's important to have great before and afters, but especially for body contouring, it's just like working out. When you work out every day and you see yourself every day, it's going to be hard for you to see that result, especially a drastic change. So you want to make sure that you have good before and afters to represent to your clients once they're done their treatments. Before and afters are also great for marketing purposes so that you can use them for your clinics. You're able to show your clients that, the treatments really work and how effectively they work. So before and afters are crucial, and that's why I wanted to touch on it a little bit in this slide. So the first thing that we're going to talk about with before and after pictures is your lighting. Your lighting is very important and has to be consistent, because if you have uneven lighting or a shadow, it's going to impact how the treatment area looks. So I don't necessarily believe that you should have one treatment taken in one room and then your other treatment taken in another room, because it's going to impact how your results look and the lighting in the room as well. So make sure you have consistent lighting in the same room. It could be unnatural lighting, natural lighting, as long as it looks the same in your before and after picture. You also have your background. Your background has to be uncluttered, neutral. You can use a blank wall. You can use, if you have a backdrop, that's even better, but something that's non-distracting. So you want to make sure that you don't have like funky wallpaper in the background or, someone's kid in the background. That's of course going to impact how your before and after treatments look. So you want to make sure it's uncluttered, neat, clean. You also want to make sure the device that you're using is consistent. So if you're using a camera, you want to make sure you're using the same camera from your before to your after. If you're using a smartphone, same thing, because your results can look a little bit different if you're using different devices. So same device throughout the whole treatment. Markings. Markings are also very useful if you're taking before and after pictures. That could be something as simple as like tape on the floor, just so that you know where your designated picture taking area is and where you're going to be taking your pictures throughout your treatments. As I mentioned, if you have something that's different in the picture, you'll be able to see it. So having like a designated area with a marking is best recommended. We also have clothing. So clothing is very important, especially with body contouring, because if you have tight fitting clothing, like shorts that are very tight, that's going to impact the treatment area that you're taking pictures of. It can kind of, misplace the fat, make it look a little bit different. And that won't, benefit your client at the end of the day because the results will look different. So what I like to do is use identical clothing. So whatever they used on their first treatment is what I want them to come in on their last treatment when I take my before and afters. So if I'm taking pictures of like the inner or the outer thighs, I'm going to have them come in with like the same color underwear, same underwear ideally, so that I can see that difference in results from your first treatment to your last. Timing is also important. If you're taking pictures of the stomach especially, and your first picture was at 9 a.m. and then your second picture was at 8 p.m., of course, we all know as women, as we eat throughout the day, our stomach starts to look a little different, right? So we want to make sure that our before and after pictures are around the same time of day. If it's 9 a.m., within maybe a 3 or 4 hour range is what I would recommend, just so that you get an accurate representation of kind of how their fat is displaced at that time of day. Documentation is also something important that we have to cover. So keeping a record of when we're taking our pictures, what treatment they got done. Trust me, when you guys get busy, you're definitely going to have a lot of clients coming in the door, a lot of names, a lot of treatments. You want to make sure that you have accurate documentation of what you're doing for your clients. So their name, their date, you want to make sure you're putting what area they had treated. What I like to do is I'll email it to myself. So I'll actually like take a picture on my phone, email it to myself with the client's name, date, time of treatment, and then I'll put it in like a nice organized folder so that I have all of their befores, all of their afters, and a lot of reference points that I can use for them. Editing, don't edit your pictures. Be honest. Make sure that they're unedited. Like you're not altering how the results look. Our technology speaks for itself. It works amazing. You're not going to need to edit the pictures. So make sure that you're not altering brightness, or you're not altering the contour of the body, because of course your clients will see through that. It'll look dishonest. You want to make sure that it's unedited so that you can represent the true results. So I'm going to show you guys some like a good before and a bad before. This is going to be my bad before. As a trainer, I'm not only here to teach, but I'm also here to learn. And unfortunately, this was one of my learning moments. I took this picture myself, and the minute I saw it, I was like, this is not a good before and after, and there's some issues here. So I want to talk you guys through what I did wrong so that you guys can learn from my mistakes and not do the same thing. So if you take a look at this before and after picture, her shirt is untucked. It's very, unneat. It looks distracting for the area that I'm treating, which would be the stomach. I had a backdrop, but unfortunately it was missed when I took the picture for some reason. So you can see I have, a cord in the background. I have a lot of distractions. That's of course not ideal for picture taking. You want to make sure it's nice and clean. Now you can also see her undergarments. You can see that her towel is not neatly tucked under the treatment area. So this would definitely be a bad before and after. I wouldn't recommend using this as my reference point. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a good before and after. So this will be a good before and after. As you can see, the client has a nice clean backdrop. There's consistent lighting throughout the whole treatment area. There's, accurate representation of how her skin looks and her body looks. You can see stretch marks there. That's great. You want to make sure that, there's no distractions, and you also are in line with the treatment area that you're looking to target. So here, I don't see her shirt at all. I don't see her undergarments. The towel is neatly tucked in her underwear, so that's nice and clean. And this will give me an accurate representation of how she'll look at the end of treatment. So the last thing that I want to cover is just an inside look into the medical aesthetic industry. Body contouring is very prevalent in the industry right now, and I think it's because we're all really busy, right? We're all like working people. We have a lot on the go. We don't have a lot of time for downtime, especially excessive downtime. So body contouring and radio frequency is a really nice option for your busy people, because they can come in, it's comfortable, there's no downtime, and they're able to see amazing results without having to go under the knife. So body contouring projection in 2025 is going to significantly increase. We're looking at a projected annual revenue of around 9.1 billion by the end of 2024, which is a huge number, by the way. That is crazy. It's given that hair removal was very prevalent, and we have other technologies that are very prevalent in the industry, it's nice to see that people are starting to combat other conditions that they're concerned about, like body contouring. So as I mentioned, 9.1 billion by the end of 2024. That's amazing. We're looking to have a projected increase at around 7 to 9% by 2030. So that shows that there's a lot of, there's a lot of potential to have body contouring within your clinics and within your practices, because there's projected increased growth within the next 10 years. So it's definitely an amazing handpiece. I love it. That's why I opted to do it for a webinar. So I hope you guys had some insight on body contouring. Hope it gave you some clarity on how the handpieces work and what they're used for and what they're intended for. And I'm going to go ahead and move it over to Caitlin so that she can kind of take a look at some of the questions.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much for that, Chantel. Honestly, so much insight, and we've learned so much about fat and body contouring, and I'm sure a lot of us in this webinar today are excited to go back to our clinics and start doing some more radio frequency. Now, as far as questions, you guys, we have the floor open if you would like to submit questions into the chat if you'd like, or perhaps into the Q&A section. You'll see that at the bottom of the screen if you would like to submit some questions. If there are any questions, please go ahead and use the chat box now. And if not, then essentially we will wrap up today's webinar in a moment. So okay, so we do have a question actually that's just popped in. Thank you so much. This comes from Maria. Maria has asked, can you use SR handpiece after RF treatments?
Yes, absolutely. So one of our stacked protocols actually includes RF and SR together in combination. So you're absolutely right. You would start with your RF-based handpiece, warm up the skin, contour, and then your SR handpiece, as we know, is used for hyperpigmentation, fine lines and wrinkles. So if you're looking to impact both indications and you're looking to kind of treat both concerns for your clients, you can definitely use both in combination, which is really exciting.
Amazing, great answer. I love combining those therapies. If I know that that's really popular because your skin rejuvenation does such surface level, it hits the dermis for the pigmentation stuff. But I find that if there's blood flow already from the heat from the radio frequency, and then you put that on with the skin rejuvenation, I find the results are just that much more impactful, which is why we want to stack treatments to begin with. Your efficacy is tenfold when you start stacking treatments. We did get one more
Absolutely.
question. Our next question we have is, Will we get, so this comes from Lisa. Will we get the recording of this webinar? Yes, yes, you will. So
Yes.
we are recording it right now. And a lot of our webinars are actually being posted on our YouTube post webinars as well in a few weeks when we've put them on there. But the attendance for this, you will immediately get an email sent to you with the recording, I believe. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but that's usually how it works. If not, you'll find them on YouTube post webinar as well. So check out our other ones too. We've got an amazing lineup of webinars that have been launched, and they're very, very helpful for your clinic and moving forward with treatments and learning about the skin a little bit more from even just training with Chantal and I and our other trainers. So,
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
yes. So if there's, is there any other questions? I'll leave the floor open just a little bit longer. I don't see anything else coming through. But if you do have any questions post-webinar, maybe you're just, not ready to answer, you don't want them to be answered live, that's totally fine. You can reach us through our Sharp Care 24-hour customer service line, email, and after hours phone, where they can answer the questions or pass them along to Chantal and I, which we will happily answer as well. But
Absolutely.
I really thank you all for our time today. It was, I think, a blast. I really had a good time. I don't know about you, Chantal, but
It
eh,
was. It looks like we actually have one more question before we
oh,
end off.
really? Oh, I see
Yes.
it. Oh, I didn't even
So
see there. Fantastic.
there we
Amazing.
go.
Um, so is it possible? So this comes from Luana. Is it possible to and safe to perform body massage, Brazilian drainage after body contouring?
Yeah, so you can definitely perform lymphatic drainage after your radiofrequency treatments, and that will help maximize your results. So if you're trained in lymphatic drainage, then I definitely recommend giving them a couple minutes of just, lymphatic drainage massage, and that will help kind of drain any residual like water and inflammation from the area that you're treating.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lymphatic drainage, again, just moving those fluids along to where they need to go so that we can process them. And then lots of water after, right, Chantal?
Lots of
Lots of
water. Oh
water.
my goodness.
Maybe going for like a nice walk after instruct your patients to get moving because right, lymph requires movement. Manual manipulation is wonderful, but getting the body moving post radio frequency is a very, very good idea.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Okay. Any other questions before I cut everybody else short?
Yeah, you guys let us know if there's anything else that you want clarified. We're here, as Caitlin mentioned. If not, we're still going to be here, of course. We're trainers. We love questions. So feel free, if you do have any other questions, to go right through Sharp Care. We'll be able to answer any other questions that you have. Perfect. All
Okay,
right.
I think that's it.
That's great. Well, thank you, Caitlin, for hosting this webinar. You gave very valuable and insightful information. I'm sure our partners and prospects are going to be really excited to know more about radio frequency. So, yeah, I'm happy about
All
this.
right. Well, thanks everyone. Enjoy your Wednesday and we will see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.